Now, over the last few weeks, we have witnessed the insurmountable grief and rage of people across the country. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari and Rajkot to Silchar, people from all walks of life have taken to the streets to demand justice for the victim of the spine-chilling Kolkata rape and murder. Amid this furor, several other such cases have made headlines. Whether the sexual assault of two nursery students in Badlapur, the gang rape of a 14-year-old girl in Nagaon, and the rape and murder of a nurse in Uttarakhand. But these are just few of the many such rapes that in fact take place every day. To put this into perspective, on an average, nearly 90 rapes are reported per day in India. 90. We all remember what happened in 2012 in the national capital, no less. Nirbhaya's fight for justice took nearly a whole decade. But not much seems to have changed on the ground. Because 12 years later, we are still at square one. We are still discussing the grim reality of the safety of women in India. Why is it that it takes a crime that is heinous in nature for the system to wake up? And in fact, as in the case of what happened in Kolkata, many of these crimes often take place within the premises of the institutions. While we express our outrage, it is important to look for solutions amid all the chaos. It is time to walk the talk and carry out tangible actions. In light of that, NewsX proposes that India needs a scientific study of sexual predators so that we understand what goes on in the minds of these predators and rapists. NewsX's Sexual Predator Study campaign, in collaboration with Statistically Speaking, has conducted a survey to assess the students' perception on campus safety in India. Let's in fact cut across to my colleague Pia, who's going to give us the questions and the results as well. Pia, over to you.
Indeed, Asavri. Let's take a look at the survey. We, in fact, spoke to about 5,842 students across campuses across the country in order to gauge how safe do they feel on their campuses. And that's our very first question that we posed them. There are about 69% of the students who said yes and 31% who stated no. So an overwhelming majority of the students did say that they felt safe and they felt respected. The second question that we posed is whether the student or anyone that they know has faced a sexual assault on campus. Approximately 29% of the students said yes, 61% said no, and 10% of the students said that they cannot say this. The third question that we posed is whether they would feel comfortable interviewing intervening if they witnessed a situation that seemed unsafe. There are, in fact, about 98%, overwhelming majority that said yes, they will feel comfortable intervening if they witnessed a situation that felt unsafe. 0.2% said they would not and they would hesitate before intervening. The fourth question that we posed is, have they been informed about the support of services on campus for victims of sexual assault? 69% of the people that we spoke to have overwhelmingly stated yes. There are 28% of the people who have stated that they are not informed about the support services on their campuses for victims of sexual assault, and 0.3% have said that they cannot say. The fifth question that we posed, we asked them, do they believe that people respect the concept of consent at large? 99% of the people said yes, and 1% said no. This is, of course, college students that we've spoken to. And last but not least, we've also asked them whether India should adopt a national sex offenders registry similar to that of the US and the United States. It is a public registry that helps in the profiling, in the screening of people when they go forward in life, whether their crimes would catch up to them or not. 92% have stated yes, we should adopt a system that is very similar to that in the United States of America. 5% have stated no, and 3% have stated that they cannot say this. To carry forward this discussion, we're being joined by a host of our panelists. Let's in fact go across to them.
All right, thank you so much, Pia. On that note, we're in fact being joined by Dr. Rajiv Sood, former Dean RML Delhi and Vice Chancellor Baba Farid University of Health Sciences. Also joining us on the broadcast is Mr. Feroz Bakht Ahmed, former Chancellor of MANUU. We're also being joined by Professor Harish Shetty, Senior Psychiatrist. Also with us is Ms. Brinda Adige, I beg your pardon, women activist. And also with us on the broadcast is Vasundhara Singh Delhi, a student of the Delhi University. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us on the broadcast. I'm going to start this conversation with Dr. Rajiv Sood. Sir, now, on an annual basis, there are as many as 43.3 million students who enroll for higher education annually. Now, if this survey were to be held proportional, it's a significant number, especially the first question that we asked regarding whether people feel safe or not. 31% said no, they don't. On that note, do you think it's time to conduct a larger study?
Study is especially required and at large because there is so much variation in the culture and also in the circumstances in diversity of India. It is very important that a structured study should be done, as was done in many other states. You have cited the reference of United States. And there, yes, it was done, and it was done after that certain recommendations came, and they got implemented. SOPs were also designed, and after that, handling with those situation where tendencies are there, where the minor problem is there and also recidivism is there after committing this crime, and they are punished, and after that again they get reactivated. So unless we have a preventive measures and we predict, after that we have to do the behavioral intervention, and also in some severe cases where you feel that we cannot tackle this fellow or this offender because of various circumstances, because of the ecosystem in which he is living, environment, and also the mental structure, and both anatomical and physiological, that is also important study, brain mapping. So we have to go for various aspects, and we have to tackle both medically the situation as well as behaviorally, and psychologists and psychiatrists are right people who will go for the upskilling of their higher education and for especially tackling these situations.
Indeed, and I'd like to carry forth this discussion to Mr. Feroz Bakht Ahmed, who is a former Chancellor of Maulana Azad National University. Sir, the second question that we posed to the students was whether anyone faced sexual assault on a campus or not. 29% of the students said yes, they do know of someone who has faced sexual assault. So in that case, do you think a scientific study of mapping out what exactly is the psychology, what exactly is behind these crimes, what do these rapists and predators think, what is the pattern of their behavior? Do you think this will help formulate policies that can then prevent rapes on a larger basis?
Right, I think we're facing some troubles over there, but in the meantime, if we could also take this question forward with Professor Harish Shetty. Sir, what is your view on the question that's been proposed?
Can you listen to me?
Yes, sir. Now you're audible.
Hello.
Yes, I request you if you could please adjust your frame a little bit. There seems to be a trouble with getting your connection sorted. In the meantime, I'd like to pose the same question to, yes, you're back, you're right back. Let's hear it from you. I posed this question, of course. Do you think such a study could help then prevent crimes of sexual assault or crimes of rape on a larger scale? We have seen 29% of the students that we had spoken to, they've said that they do know of some people who have faced molestation and crimes of sexual assault on campus. So do you think such a study can then help formulate policies at a larger level that can help then put a check on these crimes?
You see, this is a very sensitive question and a very important one for that matter of fact. Because of course, I think 40 to 50% girls in our campuses, whether school or university, they are girls. And their parents send them to these colleges, whatever kind of college, thinking that the people there are like father figures, whether these are professors, whether these are other people or their classmates. Unfortunately, it does not happen that way. I'll just give you an example of the university where I was the chancellor, that is Maulana Azad National Urdu University, where, three girls complained to me of some professors indulging in sexual harassment in written. I forwarded these complaints to the concerned authorities, and there was so much of trouble, getting through. Even National Commission for Women was also accessed to for helping these girls. Nothing actually happened. What happened what happened, that when I complained of these professors to the media, to in the newspapers, to the various agencies, to police departments, what happened? This professor who was accused of sexual harassment, he actually filed a case of defamation against me, which I was the whistleblower. Now this is what happens. So what should be done? You asked me the solution. The solution is that right from classes 4, 5, 6, there have to be before that. In fact, right from classes 3, 4, 5, there should be lessons of gender respect and regard among children, that ladies are equally important and they should be given absolute regard and respect. People, in fact, there are some people psychologically who are deranged in their sexual predators and megalomaniacs in that field. So it has to be tackled right from the school level. And if there are people who are seen indulging in these things, there should be zero tolerance on the part of Ministry of Education, on the part of various agencies. But one thing, whether it is the case of Disha Salian in Mumbai, or the case in some case in Kashmir or in UP, these cases are never, in fact, sorted out. And R.C. Kar College in Kolkata, it will also die down after some time. Nothing will happen. All these sexual predators who had indulged in that kind of horrific, murder and rape, after some time, nobody will bother, as happened in the case of Nirbhaya. But some policies, if the Ministry of Education officers are listening to me, if the Minister of Education is listening to me, in fact, there has to be a very, very serious thing. I mean, there has to be a plan for the safety and security of all the girls in all the subjects. If it is not done, then we are actually, we are not a republic, we are a rape public. I'm sorry to say this.
Right, absolutely. Now, Vasundhara Singh is with us on the broadcast. And Vasundhara, you're of course a student at the Delhi University. There was a question that we proposed in our survey, which said that have you been informed about the support service on campus for victims of sexual assault, right? As a student, I would like to understand from you, largely in the university, how many students are aware of the provisions, where to go, who to contact? How many students would perhaps know?
Well, there are many kinds of orientations that happen in every college every year, and very often it happens that we are primed about whatever provisions the institution has for us to complain whether any of us encounter such instances. But then many of us and I would say that it is common in every campus. Sexual harassment, it is very common. All women I have met, not one could tell me that once or more than once they have experienced sexual harassment in their lives, and mostly it happens in and around the campus. The thing is, there are many provisions, but the strength to go up to the authority and complain, that doesn't come up, of course, because of the fear of the victim being highlighted everywhere and nothing being happened with the culprit. He Because obviously anybody who is at a position, he would dare to do such activities, such criminal activities, but then he also has a defense mechanism set already for himself. So that is the case with campus students.
Indeed, and Vasundhara, I've been a university student not too long ago. Just 2 years back, I was also studying at Delhi University itself. And one thing that I very clearly remember is the fact that there was always a police van with police officers, especially women officers, that would be stationed right outside at the entrance gate of my college. Is there something similar at your college now as well? And what have you observed in other colleges that you've been to, perhaps for college fest? There have been cases where in certain colleges 2 years back, I remember a case very clearly in one of the colleges in DU where there was a festival going on and a mob of men just entered and molested and harassed the girls. So what's the security situation like?
Yes, absolutely. So if you ask me the solution for it, we go on making n number of provisions, we go on making n number of laws, but the culprits, they'll go on finding loopholes and to get away with whatever they've done. So the main thing that we need to do is, just like the Supreme Court has intervened and made environment and a very important part of our curriculum, even in graduation. Moral science, value education, these things must be made compulsorily happening in schools and colleges everywhere. The moral science classes in schools, that they should not be used up by maths and English teachers to go on with their subjects to complete their syllabus. This is very important because everywhere we see, recently I was watching an interview of the rapist of the Nirbhaya case that happened. There was no remorse. Even Sanjay Roy, there's no remorse. The CBI came out with a report that he has instincts like an animal. He was porn addict. So we need to start from changing the mentality of men. We teach our women about good and bad touch. We must teach our men more about that because they commit the crime. This is where we must start. I don't think, I really appreciate new laws coming in. Just today I came across the thing that EFIR has been launched. But if we look at it from a wider perspective, we are just making registration of such cases easier. Where are we making attempts to bring down the number of cases? We are celebrating 78th year of independence. And where are we? We've tried. Where do we not already have laws against sexual predators, against dowry deaths, against crimes that happen against children, against rapists? But the number is increasing. The number of cases against women, it is increasing. We need to start from changing the mentality. We need to start inculcating values. We need to focus on that instead of laws, because laws, I'm sorry, they have not been able to inculcate fear in the minds of the culprits. They move on freely. There is no remorse. There's just no remorse.
Absolutely. Vasundhara, I feel your frustration over there. I think what you said right now, you've spoken, this is basically you narrating the minds of a lot of us. But I'd in fact like to rope in Professor Harish Shetty into the conversation. Sir, now talking about solutions, now what are the resources, infrastructure and personnel that are required to conduct this work, to have a proper comprehensive survey?
I think that your survey is very useful, and the government should actually take the viewpoint or opinions from stakeholders rather than make policies sitting in a drawing room and in front of the computers. So students have to be heard, and SOPs will come out from that. That is number one. Number two, any curriculum, school or college, quantum physics or medicine, 50% of the curriculum has to be about life and 50% has to be about the subject. And that is so, so important. Number three, we have started IIMs, IITs, AIMS everywhere, but there are no qualified psychologists and counselors. The central government or the state governments have not started increase the number of remedial educators or mental health professionals. I think both the center and all the states are blind to mental health largely. Just starting a helpline across the country is not enough, and it's not enough at all. Number four, which is also very important, as Vasudhara said, let us look at boys who protect girls and let them also be part of the entire force. Let us not ignore the boys who genuinely protect girls and really help us in the mission. Number four, schools and colleges don't have mental health policies. Schools and colleges don't have child protection policies at all. Remember, these policies have to be inclusive, not to exclude any child. And in an era of globalization, the family contact time and the emotional contact time is dead. State has to take over to protect the vulnerable and the marginal sections of the people. Well, in schools and colleges, mental health awareness as an overarching issue, along with verticals of wellness and illness, along with verticals of CSA as well as rape, has to be addressed. And when you address that, I would say that mental health screening or mental health checkup should be part of every institution once in 3 months, where the principal, the dean and his family first go and do the checkup so that stigma breaks. Create an environment that people can report things very early and they are protected across time. The confidentiality is not actually torn apart like what happened in Kolkata. And speedy justice. I don't think any crime can be prevented without speedy justice. What is happening? In fact, most of these predators and psychopaths know that nothing will happen to them. In a very sad state of anonymity across the country, in urban places and cities, they are not scared, and they are largely protected by all political forces. The crooks are networked, but the good ones don't come together. So you need to have absolutely speedy justice against such offenders. And if Nirbhaya case took us 10, 12 years to come to a conclusion or to convict the people behind, I think I have no hope for justice. It has to happen within 1 year, and it has to happen instantaneously or instantly. Lastly, what is very important, I said, I'll re-emphasize, life 50%, curriculum 50% from day one, for whom we need very sensitive teachers and others who would be part of the entire story. India needs a curriculum which says how to live, how to protect, how to be safe, and how to provide safety to everybody.
Indeed, I'd like to carry this conversation forward with Brinda Adige, who's been waiting rather patiently, ma'am. One of the questions that we posed to the young students were whether they believe people respect the concept of consent at large. A whopping 99% of the people said yes, and merely 1% said no. But we've seen, we've only, spoken to about 5,842 such students. It's a very minuscule number compared to the 1.4 billion people that is there. So of course, we've seen the ground realities. We see how even if you're walking down the streets, it's so normal to start eve-teasing a woman, let alone molest one. We've seen the furor on social media. Despite the public outcry, there are still some people, whether they are trolls or not, it does not matter. They're still out there trying to justify what has happened. They speak about the kind of clothes women are wearing, the time women come out of the house, whether they're out in the mornings or in the nights. None of this justifies sexual assault. None of this justifies rape. We've spoken, in fact, to Dr. Ann Burgess, who was, in fact, the pioneer in America who led the study in order to map out how exactly do predators think. So in an Indian context, do you think we should rope in expertise from America, whether it is the FBI, in order to make sure that we too conduct such a similar study in order to ensure that these crimes do not take place again?
Yes, one of the first things we must be able to understand and not be afraid to talk about is sexual assault and rape on children and women is terrorism on almost 70% of the population. Because we are at a loose end where we are not able to defend ourselves, because constantly we are told defend yourself, defend yourself. Somebody also mentioned there are some boys who protect. Now why is it that we are talking on those terms? So if you are looking at it from that, we need to look at it from that perspective and lens. The study that you have conducted and now you're talking about at length is very, very important, because we must establish all of these various aspects that we are talking about. We're talking about the mental aspects, we're talking about their social backgrounds, we're talking about their political, business, and so-called powerful connects. All of this must be studied, because there is impunity that has set in so deeply in our country. We are a largely patriarchal country. Continuously, we have TV serials and movies and a lot of talk and dialogues that reiterate this sexism and misogyny. So everybody takes it for granted. Now, you mentioned that a large number of students actually said that consent is taken. But do they really understand what is consent? Because in a country like ours, marital rape is not a crime. So if I have reached that stage to say, my husband need not take my consent or my partner need not take my consent, then what are we talking about? So we need to address all of these issues, because we have politicians and parliamentarians who say that if you raise issues of marital rape or if you raise issues of sexual abuse inside families and within neighborhoods and communities, then all of this will shatter and break. But families, homes, communities, neighborhoods, schools, colleges are supposed to be our safe spaces. People we know, people whom we work with, people with whom we spend over 5 to 6 hours and in workplaces over 12 to 14 hours. If these places are not safe, then who do we blame? Who do we hold responsible? So at one end, very important to have these studies, and whatever information that we get from there we must infer to see what are the kind of policies and laws that we want. And like the three other panelists mentioned, after that, what? We've got our study. Probably it is a continuous study because we know that it keeps evolving. We've got all our recommendations and inference. Will it be executed? We know what happened with Nirbhaya. We know what happened with the Verma Commission, and nothing has changed. We need to have the entire comprehensive system to be put into place. Our parliamentarians, even today, look at the recent budget. What are the allocations for women and children? What are for the department? What is the allocation for education? Very pittance. We are looking at becoming a trillion, 5 trillion, whatever trillion country without addressing the core issues of the safety of the citizens of this nation. So if the parliament is not willing to give those budgetary allocations, we will continue to have these debates again and again, because we know that there are tremendous vacancies in the courts, in police stations, in also institutions that are supposed to be extending support services. Even today, we do not look at social workers and counselors as professionals who work with people to help themselves to become resilient. We simply assume some charity getting done. Now, that professionalism must be addressed, because if we don't address that professionalism, we are not looking at SOPs. We are not holding institutions accountable. If the education department gives a permission for a school to start, they are looking at a lot of other infrastructure stuff. Where are they looking at trained personnel, sensitive personnel, and like somebody mentioned, once every 90 days, there has to be evaluation. Now, probably in a country like ours, that is too difficult,
Right.
but at least once a year, psychological evaluation of our teachers, support staff, of our college deans, all that is important. And there must be a robust committee. When I talk of a robust committee, I'm talking about a committee that is accountable to the people, not to the powers that be.
Right.
And if the committee looks at the evaluation and says, okay, let's assume it's Brinda, because I don't want to name anybody else. Brinda Adige is no longer fit to hold the post of that dean. Maybe she can come back in 2 years' time. She needs to shift. I need to go elsewhere. I cannot be sitting there because I'm dean seniority. I have finished a certain amount of education and all that. Because that is what today is allowing. Rape, we must understand, is control and power. The insecurities of that person being exhibited onto the victim. The anger towards everything else is on this victim who's unable. You prey on this person who's unable to save themselves. Somebody said give self-defense. What self-defense can you do when 3-4 people come to harm you and rape you? They drug you. So let's address all of these issues. Systemic issues must be addressed simultaneously.
Right, absolutely.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.